Shabbat Shalom. Good morning. Welcome to Throwing the Baby Out with the Bathwater. This is Brian, Cannot Tell. Thanks for joining me this week. Do a few of my little things, getting set up. Running a little late today. Running late for a good reason. My son spent somewhere between 15 and 17 hours driving in from Memphis. Got to sit down and have a little morning conversation and chat with him today. And he gets to sit and listen to his dad talk for the first time in years. So I actually got a guest. I guess he peeked around the corner there and said hi. Go through our morning disclaimers here. I am a medical patient in the state of Florida. I use cannabis for a couple degenerative diseases I have. Crohn's and degenerative bone disease and stuff. I use it mainly for pain at this point in time, but I'm working toward being able to hold a regimen that will be good enough for a healing. I've been doing a lot of study about the different things, and for Crohn's disease, a healing dose is a fairly high dose, like a cancer patient would have, and it's only feasible when you can grow. And of course, the state of Florida hasn't approved that for us yet, but we're working toward those laws, they say. And there's a possibility that hemp may be available. Good morning, Jetta Joe. Thanks for joining in, coming and saying hi. I'm setting up here. About this website, I do discuss ancient texts, mainly reading from them. As my kids were growing up, one of the things that we did on a regular basis every Saturday is sometime around 10 o'clock in the morning, when everybody was rolling and had a little bit to eat, we would sit down and begin to read. When they were real young at first, it was just scripture, but after we'd read through the Bible 2 or 3 times, we started picking up other texts, other books. We started seeing things that were books left out of the Bible and stuff like that, and picked those up and began to read them. And some of these texts do cause
congruency.
Theological arguments and stuff like that, and we welcome those. Any ideas or thoughts that come up as we read, we are open in the chat. The only thing we ask is that you don't make personal attacks against the other people. No name calling, but we do want a free flow of ideas here. Hopefully, we'll be able to all head on a path of light and love. That said, last week I did read the first set of chapters, or the first half of the book of Enoch. I'm going to, real quick here, make a copy of the link for those that come in that want to read along. Haven't set up a one for the chat that's live. Give me just a moment to do that. Okay. I don't know if it's evident, but today is a rainy day in Florida. I've got the back door cracked and the sound of rain coming through. Hopefully, for those that like to listen to rest, it's soothing. The book of Enoch is a book that was referred to several times in Scripture. There's actual quotes from the book of Enoch in the Bible. Jesus himself quoted from the book of Enoch. So it's always been a contention as to why this book was left out in the first place. It seems to go deeper into more of a spiritual aspect to the fall of man and the condition of man before the flood. Um, it sets a clear picture of a creator and his direct finger still within his creation. It discusses different heavenly authorities, different spiritual beings. So if you're wanting to control people, this would be a good one to, if you're saying I'm the ultimate authority here, it's a good book to take out because this says there's authorities all over the place. Um, we've come to chapter 61, and I'm going to begin. Actually, let me get a quick drink. Maybe for my friends who do use cannabis, take a drag here. I did find out this morning there is another strain I need to avoid. Not all cannabis is for everyone. Some people are actually allergic to cannabis, and it's not recommended for those people. Uh, I found out that the Skywalker, it makes me actually more aware of my pain as opposed to not aware of my pain. So I am shifting back now. So that definitely a learning experience there. Um, but that is something that people who are new to cannabis should know, that different strains and different types of cannabis will affect you in different ways. PA Camouflage, thanks for coming in this morning. I'm just getting ready to get started here. Appreciate you joining in. Appreciate everybody that's popping in and beginning to say hi. Toy Soldier, good morning, brother. Thanks for popping in here. Just real quick for Toy Soldier, I worked on getting my thing to stand up, and I slept on it, so it all kind of fell back down again. But I'm working on about 10 inches on a straight up mohawk, bro. Uh, that's a little friend to friend thing there. You know how men are. Thus the Lord commanded the kings, the princes, the exalted, and those who dwell on the earth, saying, open your eyes and lift up your horns, if you are capable of comprehending the elect one. The Lord of spirits sat upon the throne of his glory, and the spirit of righteousness was poured out over him. Now, something I'm going to point out as we read this, something a lot of people don't know, but even the Holy Spirit within the scriptures described as 7 different spirits within one. And here we have one spirit being poured out over another spirit. So there is something in the spiritual world that goes on that is different than how it occurs here in this time, but directly affects what happens here. Um, the word of his mouth shall destroy all the sinners and all the ungodly, who shall perish at his presence. In that day shall all the kings, the princes, the exalted, and those who possess the earth stand up, behold, and perceive that he is sitting on the throne of his glory, and before him the saints shall be judged in righteousness. Now, the book of Enoch was written to those in the last days who are going to go through the great cataclysm before the coming of the Christ. So what he's discussing there is, we keep saying, why do these world leaders keep getting away with this crap and the slavery they're placing on them? This book is speaking directly to that, saying have hope, because he is going to come back and judge them people. And that nothing which shall be spoken before him shall be spoken in vain. Trouble shall come upon them, as upon a woman in travail, whose labor is severe, when her child comes to the mouth of the womb, and she finds it difficult to bring forth. One portion of them shall look upon another. They shall be astonished and shall humble their countenance. And trouble shall seize them. And when they shall behold the Son of Woman sitting upon the throne of his glory, then shall the kings, the princes, and all who possess the earth glorify him who has dominion over all things, him who was concealed For from beginning of the Son of Man existed in secret, whom the Most High preserved in the presence of his power, and revealed to the elect. He shall sow the congregation of the saints and of the elect, and all the elect shall stand before him in that day. So what this scripture, or what this passage is saying, is that this elect one, or this Christ, he's been hidden away for this time of judgment, and for this time. Um, all the kings, the princes, the exalted, and those who rule over all the earth shall fall down on their faces before him and shall worship him. They shall fix their hopes on the Son of Man, shall pray to him and petition him for mercy. Then shall the Lord of spirits hasten to expel them from his presence. Their faces shall be full of confusion, and their faces shall darkness cover. The angels shall take them to punishment, that vengeance may be inflicted on those who have oppressed his children and his elect. And they shall become an example to the saints and to his elect. Through them shall these be made joyful, for the anger of the Lord of spirits shall rest upon them. Then the sword of the Lord of spirits shall be drunk with their blood. But the saints and the elect shall be safe in that day, nor the face of the sinners and the ungodly shall they thenceforth behold. And the Lord of spirits shall remain over them. And with this Son of Man shall they dwell, eat, lie down, and raise up forever and ever. The saints and the elect have arisen from the earth, have left off to depress their countenance, have been clothed with the garment of life. The garment of life is with the Lord of spirits, in whose presence your garment shall not wax old, nor shall your glory diminish. So this is speaking of that next period of evolution, that enlightened state where our bodies are raised to that higher state back of what we consider the original Adam was in. It's telling that those who make it through this time of judgment, because they haven't been oppressing and destroying the earth, are going to be able to be with this Christ forever and ever. Now, I know that I'm going to use a lot of religious trigger words today and what I'm saying, but in a Gnostic type of context, if you look at the way they look at it, the children of light versus the children of darkness, you have this same principle, this same seed battle going on. You just have a different set of religious words to explain the same exact concepts. There was a creator. This creator had a Christ that he held, protected from the destructive forces, until the time that this Christ was able to come and to create not only a salvation, but a judgment. And that's what these passages are. In those days, the kings who possess the earth shall be punished by the angels of his wrath, wheresoever they shall be delivered up, that they may give rest for a short period, and that they may fall down and worship before the Lord of spirits, confessing their sins before him. So it's saying that the reason for all these ETs or angels or their attack upon the beings of the earth again is to cause them to give up these evil ways. They shall bless and glorify the Lord of spirits, saying, Blessed is the Lord of spirits, the Lord of kings, the Lord of princes, the Lord of the rich, the Lord of glory, and the Lord of wisdom. He shall enlighten every secret thing. Your power is from generation to generation, and your glory forever and ever. Deep are all your secrets, and numberless, and your righteousness cannot be calculated. Now we know that we should glorify and bless the Lord of kings, him who is king over all things. They shall also say, Who has granted us rest to glorify, laud, bless, and confess in the presence of his glory? And now small is the rest we desire. Or I guess it's in how small is the rest we desire, but we do not find it. We reject and do not possess it. Light has passed away from before us, and darkness has covered our thrones forever. For we have not confessed before him, we have not glorified the name of the Lord of kings. We have not glorified the Lord in all his works, but we have trusted in the scepter of our dominion and of our glory. In the day of our suffering and of our trouble, he will not save us, neither shall we find rest. We confess that our Lord is faithful in all his works, in all the judgments, and in his righteousness. In his judgments he pays no respect to persons, and we must depart from his presence on account of our evil deeds. All our sins are truly without number, and they shall say to themselves, our souls are satiated with the instruments of crime. But that prevents us not from descending to the flaming womb of, but that prevents us not from descending to the flaming womb of hell. Afterwards their countenance shall be filled with darkness and confusion before the Son of Man, from whose presence they shall be expelled, and before whom the sword shall remain to expel them. Thus says the Lord of spirits, this is the decree and the judgments against the princes, the kings, the exalted, and those who possess the earth in the presence of the Lord of spirits. In 63, I saw also other countenances in that secret place. I heard the voice of an angel saying, these are the angels who have descended from heaven to earth, and have revealed secrets to the Son of Men, and have seduced the sons of men with the commission of sin. I'm going to take a real quick drink break here. We got some good theological bombs being thrown out today. I'm going to slide over here and see what's been going on in the chat. Jim, thanks for joining us today. The Hillbilly Hydro Grower. Organic Home Buzz. Boy, we're getting a full house this morning. Appreciate everybody coming in and saying hi. I'm having a little forbidden fruit for those of you that smoke. This is like the craziest, terpiest smelling, tasting. It's like berry tangerines. I think the closest thing I've found to describe it is eating dry Fruit Loops. The taste comes through with the smell. If you are all about your stuff being nice, good, enjoyable, forbidden fruit's one to look into. Now, its high is not the biggest, most explosive. It does work on pain. It is a relaxer. It is not one of those hit you, sit you down, fade it out, the pain's gone type of thing. But for those who need a casual smoke, this is a good one for you. And I'm telling you, there's nothing crazier in taste. I mean, I heard it. Wouldn't believe it till I tasted it, and it is. See, Rock and Grow, good morning. Cheers. Thanks for coming in. Reading the book of Enoch today. We're swinging through. We're hitting chapter 64. Taking a couple tokes. I smoked some Skywalker this morning, and I found out that is a strain that actually makes you more in tune with your pain and not have the pain go away. It's now on my list of 2 do not use. I do not use Harlequin because even though it is great CBD, it triggers my ADHD to the point I'll have 6 projects going one time, and all of them critical projects. And now the Skywalker one, which I'm very sensitive to every little thing going on in my body because of it.
You're jittery.
And jittery and all, yes. So, taking an extra break here.
That's interesting that Harley Quinn did that. I did not know.
Yeah, it maybe has something similar. For those that weren't in here earlier, my son has driven down. It's my daughter's birthday this week, and he's come to see his sister. And he got in this morning, and so I actually have one of my kids sitting and listening in for the first time in a while. So we're having a good time here. He may throw a few words in, but we are discussing the period of time prior to the flood, the condition of the earth, the condition of the kings of earth. A reminder that this is for the time of the next cataclysm, the conditions of the kings of the earth, and the conditions of the morality upon the earth and all that type of stuff being similar. Um, we're going to see a phrase that's used quite a bit in this next chapter. Its meaning's thrown around a lot. Different people say it means different things. I'm interested to hear what some other people have to say. In the days of Noah. In the days of Noah. See, it's only a recent revelation about the Anunnaki, and as I read from the story of Enki and all, that there was a possibility of other races within our universe that are also sentient, also what's the word I'm looking for? Humanoid, um, who have also technologies and things. Um, we have at the beginning of the book of Enoch here a reference to what sounds not just like an alien race, but even one that's beyond what's described as the Anunnaki in the books that we read previously. I might go into later why I believe there's a difference there. Um, but somehow we have a mixing of mankind with another group, whether that be alien, angel, whether it be through copulation or genetic manipulation. Each one of these stories throws in a different thing. But now we're looking at our scientists who spent time in the occultic sciences, learning from spirits how to build machines to accomplish some of these same things again. Genetic splicing, time perturbation, trying to change time. Um, all these different things. So are we not maybe heading back into these days of Noah? But starting into 64, in the days of Noah, saw that the earth became inclined and that destruction approached. Then he lifted up his feet and went to the ends of the earth, to the dwelling of his great grandfather Enoch. And Noah cried with a bitter voice, "Hear me, hear me, hear me," 3 times. And he said, "Tell me what is transacting upon the earth. For the earth labors and is violently shaken. Surely I shall perish with it." After this there was a great perturbation upon the earth, and a voice was heard from heaven. I fell down on my face when my great grandfather Enoch came and stood by me. Now, great perturbation, of course, being earthquake and a voice from heaven. Folks, go back and look up some of these recent lights and sounds and stuff that's been going on. Interesting. He said to me, "Why have you cried out to me with a bitter cry and lamentation? A commandment has gone forth from the Lord against those who dwell on the earth, that they may be destroyed. For they know every secret of the angels, every oppressive and secret power of the devils, and every power over those who commit sorcery, as well as those who make molten images in the whole earth. They know how silver is produced from the dust of the earth, and how the earth, the metallic drop, exists. How on the earth the metallic drop exists. For lead and tin are not produced from the earth as the primary fountain of their production. There is an angel standing upon it, and that angel struggles to prevail. Afterwards, my great grandfather Enoch seized me with his hand, raising me up and saying to me, "Go, for I have asked the Lord of spirits respecting this perturbation of the earth," who replied, "On account of their impiety have their innumerable judgments been consummated before me. Respecting the moons have they inquired, and they have known that the earth will perish with those who dwell upon it, and that to these there will be no place of refuge forever. They have discovered secrets, and they are those who have been judged, but not you, my son. The Lord of Spirit knows that you are pure and good, free from the reproach of discovering secrets. He, the Holy One, will establish your name in the midst of the saints, and will preserve you from those who dwell upon the earth. He will establish your seed in righteousness, with dominion and great glory, and from your seed shall spring forth righteousness and holy men without number forever." After this he showed me the angels of punishment, who were prepared to come and to open all the mighty waters under the earth, that they may be for judgment, for the destruction of all those who remain and dwell upon the earth. And the Lord of spirits commanded the angels who went forth not to take up men and to preserve them, for those angels presiding over all the mighty waters. Then I went out from the presence of Enoch. In those days the word of the Lord came to me and said, Noah, behold, your lot has ascended up to me, a lot void of crime, a lot beloved and upright. Now then shall the angels labor at the trees, but when they proceed to this, I will put my hand upon it and preserve it. The seed of life shall arise from it, and a change shall take place, that the dry land shall not be left empty. I will establish your seed before me forever and ever, and the seed of those who dwell with you on the surface of the earth. It shall be blessed and multiplied in the presence of the earth in the name of the Lord. And they shall confine those angels who disclosed impiety. In the burning valley it is that they shall be confined, which at first my great grandfather Enoch showed me in the west, where there were mountains of gold and silver, of iron, of fluid metal, and of tin. And I beheld that valley in which there was a great perturbation, and where the waters were troubled. And when all this was effected, from the fluid mass of fire, and the perturbation which prevailed, in that place there arose a strong smell of sulfur, which became mixed with the waters, and the valley of the angels who had been guilty of seduction burned underneath its soil. Through that valley also rivers of fire were flowing, to which those angels shall be condemned, who seduce the inhabitants of earth. And in those days shall these waters be to kings, to princes, and to the exalted, and to the inhabitants of the earth, for the healing of the soul and body, and for the judgment of the spirit. Their spirits shall be full of revelry, and that they may be judged in their bodies, because they have denied the Lord of spirits. And although they perceive their condemnation day by day, they believe not in his name. So I'm going to point out right here that these are not beings that don't know. It says they perceive every day, and they know they're being judged for what they're doing, but they don't believe in his name anyway. And as the inflammation of their bodies shall be great, so shall their spirits undergo a change forever. For no word which is uttered before the Lord of spirits shall be in vain. Judgment has come upon them because they trusted in their carnal revelry and denied the Lord of spirits. In those days shall the waters of that valley be changed. For when the angels shall be judged, then shall the heat of those springs of waters experience an alteration. And when the angels shall ascend, the water of the springs shall again undergo a change and be frozen. Then I heard holy Michael answering and saying, This judgment with which the angels shall be judged shall bear testimony against the kings and princes and those who possess the earth. For these waters of judgment shall be for the healing and for the death of their bodies. But they shall not perceive and believe that the waters will be changed and become a fire shall blaze forever. Uh, it's kind of wild how the original description, it's the fire and ice thing again. It's almost the description of the destruction of Atlantis. And if the waters were ice instead of just merely water, like maybe Antarctica? That's the current theory anyway. After this, he gave me the characteristical marks of the secret things in the book of my great grandfather Enoch, and in the parables which had been given to him, inserting them for me among the words of the book of the parables. And that time holy Michael answered and said to Raphael, The power of the Spirit hurries me away and impels me on. The severity of the judgment, of the secret judgment of the angels, who is capable of beholding? The endurance of that severe judgment which has taken place and has been made permanent, without being melted at the sight of it. Again, holy Michael answered and said to holy Raphael, Who is there whose heart is not softened by it, and whose reins are not troubled at this thing? Judgment has gone forth against them, and by those who have thus dragged them away, and that was when they stood in the presence of the Lord of spirits. I think I said this last week, and actually I'll wait for 2 more verses to say it. In like manner also holy Raquel said to Raphael, They shall not be before the eye of the Lord, since the Lord of spirits has been offended with them. For like the Lord's have they conducted themselves. Therefore will he bring upon them a secret judgment forever and ever. For neither shall angel nor men receive a portion of it, but they alone shall receive their own judgment forever and ever. So this judgment is actually a separate judgment described from what we know as, or described as, a hell for those that destroy the world during this incarnation. But the point I wanted to bring up was the fact that back up here just a little bit. The judgment is one that's carried out. So these are separate judgments from ones that are spoken of later. The thought I had is escaped me as to how I was going to say it. So, the severity of the judgment of the secret judgment of the angels. So this is even a punishment that's not even described to us. There is one up here that was described about them being drugged through a river and then blazed forever. I'll continue reading. If I'm supposed to tell it, it'll come back to me. After this judgment, they shall be astonished and irritated, for it shall be exhibited to the inhabitants of the earth. Oh, I know what I was going to say. They know and have been told this judgment beforehand. They are in the process now of undergoing this judgment. So it is no wonder that they believe that if they destroy this universe, that they would escape from this judgment. The phrase from both sides is, I've come to help you, I've come to enlighten you, I've come to make you free. But there is one side that decidedly came and enslaved. There's one side that keeps us enslaved even in this time and realm. And I think it's learning truth and being able to see that and being able to see what's trapping us as opposed to what rules and what things will set us free as part of this time of enlightenment. But these particular angels, behold the names of those angels. These are their names. The first of them is Samyaza. The second, Aristikapha. The third, Armen. The fourth, Karkabel. The fifth, Terrell. The sixth, Ramiel. Daniel. Kael. Oh, and by the way, Kael, isn't that Superman's dad? Barakel. Azazel, the Smurf Papa. Aramars. Bathwater, Basael, Ananael, Turiel, Semapasil, Yetriel, Tumael, Terel, Rumel, and Azael. These are the chief of their angels and name of the leaders of their hundreds, and the leaders of their 50s, and the leaders of their 10s. The first is Yekun. He it was who seduced all the sons of the holy angels, and causing them to descend on earth, led astray the offspring of men. The second, Kesabel, who pointed out evil counsels to the sons of holy angels, and induced them to corrupt their bodies by copulating with mankind. The name of the third is Gadrel. He discovered every stroke of death to the children of men. He taught them how to kill. He seduced Eve and discovered the children of men the instruments of death, the coat of mail, the shield, the sword for slaughter, and every instrument of death to the children of men. So actually we have here Gadrel is one of the names given to the Satan, or the serpent. Um, people always say Lucifer, Satan, the serpent, all these things are the same being, but I think the more things we read, even within our own scriptures, we see that these are all different beings with different authorities in different places. But they have one thing in common, and that's rebellion against their place of authority or where they were supposed to do. From his hand were these things derived to them who dwell upon earth from that period forever. The name of the fourth, Ptolemy, who discovered to the children of men bitterness and sweetness, and pointed out to them to every secret of their wisdom. He taught men to understand writing and to use ink and paper. Therefore, numerous have been those who have gone astray from every period of the world, even to this day. So basically, he taught propaganda. For men were not born for this, thus with pen and with ink to confirm their faith, since they were not created except that, like the angels, they may remain righteous and pure. Nor would death, which destroys everything, have affected them. But by this their knowledge they perish, and by this also its power consumes them. And I think this is one of the keys to the nature of what the fall was or what sin was. The name of the fifth is Cassiade. He discovered to the children of men every wicked stroke of spirits and demons. The stroke of the embryo in the womb to diminish it. In other words, he gave him abortion. The stroke of the spirit by the bite of the serpent. The stroke which is given in the midday by the offspring of the serpent, the name of which is Tabet. This is the number of Casabel, the principal part of the oath which the Most High dwelling in glory revealed to the holy ones. And I think as if you really evaluate what each one of these is accused of, each one of them is accused of bringing the curse into mankind. Um, its name is Becca. He spoke to the holy Michael to discover to them the sacred name, that they might understand the secret name and thus remember the oath, and that those who pointed out every secret thing to the children of men might tremble at that name and oath. This is the power of that oath, for powerful it is and strong. And he established this oath of Bacchae by the instrumentality of the holy Michael. These are the secrets of this oath, and by it were they confirmed. Heaven was suspended by it, before the world was made forever. By it has the earth been founded upon the flood, while from the concealed parts of the hills the agitated waters proceeded forth from the creation to the end of the world. By this oath the sea has been formed and the foundation of it. So basically he's trying to find out the creative power of God. During the period of its fury he established the sand against it, which continues unchanged forever. And by this oath the abyss has been made strong, nor is it removable from its station forever and ever. And by this oath the sun and moon complete their progress, never swerving from their command given to them forever and ever. And by this oath the stars complete their progress, and when their names are called they return and answer forever and ever. Thus in the heavens take place the blowing of the winds. All of them have breathings, and the effect of a complete combination of breathings. There the treasures of thunder are kept in the splendor of the lightning. There are kept the treasures of hail and of frost, treasures of snow, and the treasures of rain and of dew. All of these confess and laud before the Lord of spirits. They glorify with all their power of praise, and he sustains them in all their act of thanksgiving, while they laud, glorify, and exalt the name of the Lord of spirits forever and ever. And with them he established this oath, by which they and their paths are preserved, nor does their progress perish. Great was their joy. They blessed, glorified, and exalted, because the name of the Son of Man was revealed to them. He sat upon the throne of his glory, and the principal part of the judgment was assigned to him, the Son of Man. Sinners shall disappear and perish from the face of the earth, while those who seduce them shall be bound with chains forever. According to their rank of corruption shall they be imprisoned, and all their works shall disappear from the face of the earth. Nor thenceforth shall there be any to corrupt, for the Son of Man has been seen sitting on his throne of glory. Everything the wicked shall disappear, and depart before his face, and the word of the Son of Man shall become powerful in the presence of the Lord of spirits. This is the third parable of Enoch. So that was the third parable. And it goes into a very clear description of a judgment. It goes into a clear description that those who are misled and not following the Creator are just gone. It says they're wiped out from the face of the earth. They're gone. Their souls exist no more. But it says those who polluted and caused them to stray, those that caused the curse and drug them through the curse, they are sent to a judgment. And that judgment is rated by the amount of wickedness that they did. Take a real quick minute here. Boy, everybody's coming in today. Man Green. Hola, good morning, buddy. Papa Dabs, good to see you this morning. Everybody saying hi. Yep, Papa. It's time for a couple puffs. A little fire on the end of it there. Cheers. I've got this urge to tell my son who each one of you are, but that'd probably be a little bit too much public information, so I'm gonna have to be good and keep it to my business. Oh, Jetta, my thumb is still in a splint, but I did take it off yesterday for a little while. It is doing better. It is now 2 days past the throbbing and the second day of the itch. For those who didn't hear, earlier this week I was drilling with a drill, a 2-inch hole saw that got stuck, and the drill kept going, and as it did, it decided to have my thumb move out of the way between my two knuckles and sent it sideways. And so it's been in a splint. And I've had to adjust my work week to deal with it. Yep, the bone's mending together. I'm able to use my other fingers now. First day or so, I couldn't really even drive because every time I grabbed the wheel with those fingers, it'd make that bone click in there, and every time the bone would click, it'd reset the pain. Oh, it was just one thing after another. Jams up 43, thanks for joining us. I pray that you'll have continued recovery there on your hand. I hope you're doing well from it. Papa Dabs, we got rain down here today. And once I tell my son that you're actually up on a fish camp, he might be a little jealous. When we lived in Florida from 2001 to 2005, we lived on Lake Waimama.
Ooh, those little rattler. By the way, I showed Chris some. He has some too. Those little short babies.
Yep, and it's crappie season. Yeah. That's what Papa's been fishing for. He's had some pictures, some nice little crappies pulled up. Scaregrow, good morning, buddy. Thanks for joining us. Taking a little chapter break here. Couple tokes. For those who've just come in, my son's down from Memphis. He gets to sit in on today's chat.
I normally watch from whether it's a regular.
I don't have you on a mic, so yeah, they won't hear you very well. He usually catches my broadcast for a couple hours or an hour or so.
I message every now and then, but I usually just lurk.
Yeah. But he spends a lot of the week working, and having been raised by me, still takes the Sabbath day and Being a millennial, he still sleeps in a little bit. You know how that goes. Oh, yep. So that was a little sidetrack there. But yeah, Lake Waimama, it was a fish camp in the 50s, 100-acre lake, backside of Tampa Bay. So we spent many a Sabbath day after reading time down there, throwing a line in, singing silly songs. The kids were young then, and their dad had a bad memory because he was medicating in secret back then. I've been sick since my son was 4 years old. He's 25. Turning 25.
24?
Yeah, he turned 25 this year.
24 this year.
He turned 24 this year.
I think.
Jeez, I'm all confused.
I know. Look, I forgot what Elizabeth's birthday was, and she's 4 years younger than her, right?
Yeah, my girl just turned 21, and then today's my other one turning 12. Oh, shoot. I should have texted her a happy birthday already. I'll get that as soon as I'm done here. It's my 12-year-old little girl. Catch up here. Wow, wow, wow. Texas OG. Good morning, brother. Good to see you coming in. Having a little break between chapters, a little chat time. We're reading through the book of Enoch. We've been reading about the different types of judgment. Well, not just the fact that there are going to be different judgments for the different levels of wickedness that comes upon this earth. I know that theologically, a lot of people say, how can a being of love destroy something he created, whereas everything he created, even that which was created in perfection, was given the choice of free will. And in our choice of free will, we either choose to work as a community or we choose to work for our own self. And love is a communal thing. Love is a community thing. Selfishness is the antithesis of love. And as we begin to work for ourselves and for our own comforts or our own desires, we begin to throw off all these other things around us and we begin to work a curse. No longer are they able to function in the manner that they're supposed to. We bring curses into our children's life by things we do. We bring curses into other people's lives who we call friends or this, that, and the other by things we say and do. And, this is a clear description of, the world was just like this at one point in time before, so much so that it had to be judged because it wouldn't have been fair for love to let it continue, for free will to overflow to the point where my reaction to him being selfish is my own selfishness, as opposed to my reaction to him being selfishness is love. So we have that thing that begins to work on different people, and it leads people astray. And that's where, when it refers to that leads those astray, there's a judgment for that. What's cool about this PA is that these texts, while in the very beginning say specifically they are written, and there are some judgments that are written in these texts, the predominant thing is talking about the time that happened last time and showing the correlation of where that wickedness got, how man became enslaved, how we began to the point of destroying each other, and how that wasn't just man, it was across the spiritual border. I mean, we had angels and demons here on this earth doing the same thing. We have what people are calling a soft disclosure. That soft disclosures, they never left, folks. They've always been here. the good and bad. This battle continues, the light and the darkness. And what happens is that when all of this was set into place, before the first choice was made to go against the created whole, there was provision made to correct that situation if it happened. And these laws, love put into place, these blessings and cursings, these direct weights and judgments within the spiritual and the physical realms, these things which we do physically that directly affect other people physically, spiritually, mentally, these things we do spiritually that affect other people physically. All these things are being weighed. And as we react toward the negativity, not with love, but with more selfishness, the day degenerates. It becomes more wicked. It becomes harder for righteous men to stand up. Um, Something that came to me this week and some of the revelation of thinking about last week was good men are afraid to die. We don't stand up for what's right anymore because we don't want to die. And over, we're told that death is what brings this body's seed, and as growers, the seed goes into the earth and dies, and out of that death comes a life, the new birth, the rebirth, the recreation. We become the new being, the spiritual. So out of this physical, not only does that happen spiritually now with the way that we can begin to show love and interact with other people, but this happens upon our death. And someday it says that even that body is going to be pulled up and made into something and reunited with that spirit and made into a being beyond what even the angels have seen or known. That's why they're pissed off at us, because we didn't have the same opportunity of seeing the perfection at the start that Adam did, whichever Adam. Because it seems to me as we read these, there's been this picture over and over, possibly 5-6 times. The hearts of men are wicked. Exactly, we have the choice of good or bad energy to expect in our lives. They will always be here. We are blessed with choice, something they don't have. They do have choice, but the point is they've already made their choice. They've made the choice in the face of God, and they said, we don't believe that you're the ultimate, that light is going to overcome everything. We believe that we can make a better plan. And they began to step outside of that big plan that the Creator had for the purification of souls, for the making of new creators, new beings of light beyond what we understand. Each one of them angelic beings was created with their own spirit. Man was flesh and a soul and endued with the spirit of the Creator. We have creation within us, within our words, within what we say and do. That is the blessing and the cursing. And that is how love is supposed to show itself. I'm almost done with the cigarette, so that sermon's about over for all you that are cringing at me. But these are little discussions my son will tell you that we had growing up. This is how and we didn't just have these discussions because we were working through these things as a family, coming to these conclusions. We were working through these things, discovering these ideas. We were working through these things because I wasn't satisfied with the spirituality I was given. I was given the spirituality of control. And as long as you follow and you live within these rules, you'll get to be raised up within the system of control and have your own sense of control and authority at some point in time. But no, we're created beings, and dude, with the Creator Spirit, we've been put in control by our very creation. They know that. They know it's our words that affect creation. They've already made their choice, and so they try to use us to do their work. That's our choice. Yes, I'm vibrating like crazy today because I smoked some Skywalker. I'm very attuned to it, unfortunately.
Each one
Jed and
from
Joe
another
knows
one.
that my vibration's up today.
Each one of the other ones will power back up the Skywalker. It lingers for
Oh,
hours.
that's good to know.
Even it,
uh,
yeah,
yeah.
because this just hits you
So
like
if it does this to you too, why do you like it? Because you usually use it to go to sleep.
well, here because that's all I hit. Here's the thing: other hits of other kinds of stuff will power it up, but if you just hit it, you'll get really good sensitivity and focus for a little while, um, and then
Okay, so
I
basically,
ride the down into
you
sleep.
you use the focus to get yourself to the point that you ride the down wave into your
Because I can
sleepiness.
also focus on the inner parts of my body, relax everything, and
Okay, so being that it makes you so aware of all your being,
yeah, that I'm
you're
able
able
to
to
relax.
relax those parts of you and get that sense. All
And
right.
then when ride it down into unconscious sleep.
It's always a real good day for me when one of my kids is here on a Saturday because for years, 24 years almost, Saturday was family day. And then that's one thing my wife tried to steal from me and use over me. And the Creator still blesses me even though I can be attacked in that way. Good morning, Sofo. Good to have you come in and join us. Good to see you, brother.
Yeah. Batteries for this. Be right back.
Yep, I'm about to start into the next set of chapters. Yeah, my son is my 6 foot giant, blonde hair, blue eyed boy. Uh, he did not take after his mother or dad as far as the height go, but after his grandparents, fortunately. After this, the name of the Son of Man, living with the Lord of Spirits, will be exalted by the inhabitants of the earth. It will be exalted in the chariots of the Spirit, and the name went forth in the midst of them. From that time I was not drawn into the midst of them. But he seated me between two spirits, between the north and the west, where the angels received their ropes to measure out the place for the elect and the righteous. There I beheld the fathers of the first men and the saints who dwell in that place forever. So here we have record of a first men and saints. And now remember, this is a record. It's a dual record given here because it's at the time of Noah and it's a record showing the end days. So it's showing that this has happened more than once. And another thing it shows here in this set of scriptures is that everybody who claims they know the name don't know the name because it's not until he returns that the spirits release his name. So all this bickering over who's got the name, who says it right this way or that way, it's just arguing over words at this point because at this point the only thing that can be measured is in the heart because we don't know the words. Well, that's kind of cool and deep. Afterwards, my spirit was concealed, ascending into the heavens. I beheld the sons of the holy angels treading on flaming fire, whose garments and robes were white, and whose countenances were transparent as crystal. I saw 2 rivers of fire glittering like a hyacinth. Then I fell on my face before the Lord of Spirits. And Michael, one of the archangels, took me by my right hand, raised me up, and brought me out to where was every secret of mercy and secret of righteousness. He showed me all the hidden things of the extremities of heaven, all the receptacles of the stars, and the splendor of all, from whence they went forth before the face of the holy. And he concealed the spirit of Enoch in the heaven of heavens. There I beheld, in the midst of that light, a building raised with stones of ice. In the midst of these stone vibrations of living fire, my spirit saw around the circle of the flaming habitation, on one of its extremities, that there were rivers full of living fire which encompassed it. Then the seraphim, the cherubim, and Ophanim surrounded it. These are those who never sleep, but watch the throne of his glory. And I think it's real cool if you go back and you study some of these different angelic types, these beings, and what their positions were. I mean, we have knowledge of Lucifer having been a cherubim. Well, if you look, cherubim have 6 wings. They have 4 faces, one that faces in each direction. They don't actually turn. When they move, they actually go in the direction of whichever face it is, north, south, east, or west. So you see that being coming at you if you're facing that direction. The seraphim are described as serpents of fire, quite possibly a record of the original serpent which was upon the earth or went through the garden or whatever. And the Ophanim, which, boy, right now, uh, the best way we would say would be UFOs. They're Ezekiel's wheels within wheels. They are it says that they are the chariots that those other spirits are hovering over and are within. It's just a crazy picture if you see the picture. If you ever get a chance to go to, what's Ezekiel? Yes, Ezekiel. First part of the book of Ezekiel. It gives a crazy description of this particular scene. And I beheld angels innumerable, thousands and thousands, and myriads who surrounded that habitation. Michael, Raphael, Gabriel, Phanuel, and the holy angels who were in the heavens above went in and out of it. Michael, Raphael, and Gabriel went out of that habitation, and the holy angels innumerable. With them was the Ancient of Days, whose head was white as wool, and pure as his robe was indescribable. And I'm going to throw something out here which is probably going to tick some Christian people off, but I believe we have the Ancient of Days kind of described as the avatar of the Creator, because we have the Christ also described as the avatar of the Word. How that works, I can't tell you exactly, but we also know that that spirit transcended both realms. And as I mentioned earlier, that spirit 7 parts. Then I fell on my face, while all my flesh was dissolved, and my spirit became changed. Cried out with a loud voice, with a powerful spirit, blessing, glorifying, and exalting. So right here, he's going through a physical transformation just being in the presence. And those blessings which proceeded from my mouth became acceptable in the presence of the Ancient of Days. The Ancient of Days came with Michael and Gabriel, Raphael and Phanuel, with thousands of thousands and myriads, which could not be numbered. Then that angel came to me, and with his voice saluted me, saying, You are the Son of Man, who art born for righteousness, and righteousness has rested upon you. The righteousness of the Ancients of Days shall not forsake you, he said. On you shall he confer peace in the name of the existing world. For from thence has peace gone forth since the world was created, and thus shall it happen to you forever and ever. All who shall exist and who shall walk in your path of righteousness shall not forsake you forever. With you shall their habitations, with you their lot, nor from you shall they be separated forever and ever. And thus shall the length of days be with the Son of Man. Peace shall be the righteous, and the path of integrity shall the righteous pursue, in the name of the Lord of Spirits, forever and ever. And I think that one of the reasons why Jesus continually pissed off the Pharisees by calling himself the Son of Man, he was purposely referring to Enoch. Never once in Scripture does Jesus ever call himself the Son of God. Only the Pharisees call him that. But they say you're calling yourself the Son of God by saying you're the Son of Man, because they knew he was making reference to this Scripture. They knew he was calling himself the glorified. And I think this is what presents hope to man, because it says he gave up everything when he came. He gave up his godhood. He gave up the power of the Word. He came and he lived within this flesh. He lived according to the laws of this given universe. He succeeded and fulfilled those laws in a way that was not personally selfish, but communally outward, showing the picture of love, and died for it, and thereby provided a sacrifice or a payment, a way. We look at that path, we follow that path. We got to take the spiritual, the religious words out of this and realize that this is the same spiritual lesson that's being taught if we would just go back and just realize that. The book of the revolutions of the luminaries of heavens, according to their respective classes, their respective powers, their respective periods, their respective names, the places where they commence their progress, and their respective months, which Uriel, the holy angel who was with me, explained to me, he who conducted them, the whole account of them, according to every year of the world, forever, unto the new work shall be effected, which shall be eternal. This is the first law of the luminaries. And I think, yeah, this is where we have the setting forth of the gates. And there's many people who believe that these calendars we keep finding, these great stone calendars, are the representations of these gates. Others who have read the Book of Enoch or knew these truths and set these gates up. The first law of the luminaries: the sun and the light arrives at the gate of heaven, which are on the east, and on the west of it at the western gates of heaven. I beheld the gates whence the sun goes forth, and the gates where the sun sets, in which gates also the moon rises and sets. And I beheld the conductors of the stars. Among those who precede them, 6 gates are at rising, and 6 are setting of the sun. All of these respectively, one after another, are on a level, and numerous windows are on the right and on the left sides of those gates. First proceeds forth that great luminary, which is called the sun, the orb of which is the orb of heaven, the whole of its being replete with the splendid and flaming fire. Its chariot where it ascends, the wind blows. The sun sets in heaven, and returning by the north to proceed toward the east, it is conducted so as to enter that gate and illuminate the face of heaven. In the same manner it goes forth in the first month by the great gate. It goes forth the fourth of those 6 gates, which are at the rising of the sun, and in the 4th gate, through which the sun with the moon proceeds, in the first part of it, there are 12 open windows, from which issues out a flame, when they are open in their proper periods. Okay, now this gets pretty wordy and gets pretty hard to follow, but I'll tell you, there is a guy online, and I'll remember his name before this is over, who has gone through and he shows how this all works. And his big discovery was that if you take and you look down on Stonehenge as opposed to stand in the middle of it, all of this works. Zen Garcia. When the sun rises in heaven, it goes forth, and through the 4th gate 30 days. And by the 4th gate in the west of heaven, on the level with it, it descends. In other words, this first gate, 30 days it rises in it, the one opposite descends in it. During that period, the day is lengthened from the day, and the night is curtailed from the night for 30 days. And then the day is longer by 2 parts than the night. So this is giving our description of our spring. The day is precisely 10 parts, and the night is 8. The sun goes forth through the 4th gate and sets in it, and the sun and turns to the 5th gate during 30 days, after which it proceeds from and sets in the 5th gate. Then the day becomes lengthened by a second portion, so that it is 11 parts, while the night becomes shortened, and it is only 7 parts. The sun now returns to the east, entering into the 6th gate, and rising and setting in the 6th gate 31 days on account of its sign. At that period, the day is longer than the night, being twice as long as the night, and become 12 parts. But the night is shortened and becomes 6 parts, and then the sun rises up that the day may be shortened and the night lengthened. And the sun returns toward the east, entering into the 6th gate, where it rises and sets for 30 days. When that period is completed, the day becomes shortened precisely 1 part, so that it is 11 parts, and the night is 7 parts. Then the sun goes from the west, and from the sixth gate it proceeds eastward, rising in the fifth gate for 30 days, and setting again westward in the fifth gate of the west. At that period, the day becomes short in two parts, and is 10 parts, while the night is 8 parts. Then the sun goes from the fifth gate, and it sets in the fifth gate of the west, and rises in the fourth gate for 31 days, on account of the sign setting in the west. In that period, the day is made equal, and with the night, and being equal with it, the night becomes 9 parts, and the day 9 parts. Then the sun goes from that gate, and as it sets in the west, and returning to the east, proceeds by the third gate for 30 days, setting in the west at the third gate. At that period, the night is lengthened from the day during 30 mornings, and the day is curtailed from the day, 30 days, the night being 10 parts precisely, and the day 8 parts. The sun now goes from the third gate. As it sets in the third gate in the west, but returning to the east, it proceeds by the second gate of the east for 30 days. In like manner, also it sets in the second gate in the west of the heavens. At that period, the night is 11 parts, and the day 7 parts. Then the sun goes at that time from the second gate, as it sets in the second gate in the west, but returns to the east, proceeding by the first gate for 31 days, and sets in the west in the first gate. At that period, the night is lengthened as much as the day, and 12 parts precisely, while the day is 6 parts. The sun has thus completed its beginnings, and the second time goes round from these beginnings. Into that first gate it enters for 30 days, and sets in the west in the opposite part of heaven. At that period, the night is contracted in its length a fourth part. That is, one portion becomes 11 parts. The day is 7 parts. Then the sun returns and enters into the second gate of the east. It returns by these beginnings 30 days, risings and settings. At that period, the night is contracted in its length. It becomes 10 parts, and the day 8 parts. Then the sun goes from that second gate and sets in the west, but returns to the east and rises in the east in the third gate, 31 days, setting in the west of heaven. At that period, the night becomes shortened. It is 9 parts, and the night is equal with the day. The year is precisely 364 days. The length of the day and night, and the contraction of the day and night are made to differ from each other by the progress of the sun. By means of this progress, the day is daily lengthened and the night greatly shortened. And I want to make a reference real quick here. There's evidence the earth had a 360-day period. A lot of people say it was before a flood, and I do also believe it was before a flood. But we have a clear description here that before Noah's flood, there was 364 days. So that's another difference between the flood stories that I've found. The lengthening of the day and the night and the contraction of the day and night are made to differ from each other by the progress of the sun. By means of this progress, the day is daily lengthened and the night greatly shortened. This is a law in the progress of the sun, and its turning when it turns back, turning during 60 days and going forth. This is the great everlasting luminary, that which he names the sun forever and ever. This is also that which goes forth, a great luminary, and which is named after peculiar kind as God commanded. And thus it goes in and out, neither slackening nor resting, but running on in its chariot by day and by night. It shines with a 7th portion of light from the moon, but the dimensions of both are equal. And this is once again a reference to the fact that the moon is making its own light, and somehow even the sun reflects the moon's light. So, once again, I think some of this new science is starting to catch up with some stuff. After this law, I beheld another law of an inferior luminary, the name of which is the moon, and the orb of which is the orb of heaven. Its chariot, which it secretly ascends, the wind blows, and light is given to it by measure. Every month, at its exit and entrance, it becomes changed, and its periods are as the periods of the sun. And when in like manner its light is to exist, its light is a 7th portion of the light from the sun. Thus it rises, and it is commenced toward the east and goes forth for 30 days. At that time it appears and becomes to you the beginning of the month. 30 days it is with the sun in the gate from which the sun goes forth. Half of it is the extent, 7 portions, 1/2, and the whole of its orb is void of light, except a 7th portion out of the 14 portions of its light. And in a day it receives a 7th portion, or half that portion of its light. Its light is by sevens, by 1 portion, and by the half of a portion it sets with the sun. And when the sun rises, the moon rises with it, receiving half a portion of light. On that night, when it commences its period previously to the day of the month, the moon sets with the sun. And on that night, in its dark, in its 14 portions, that is, in each half, but it rises on that day with 1/7 portion precisely, and its progress declines from the rising of the sun. During the remainder of the periods of its light, it increases to the 14 portions. Then I saw another progress and regulation which he effected in the law of the moon, the progress of the moons, and everything relating to them. Uriel showed me the holy angel who conducted them all. Their stations I wrote down, and he showed them to me. I wrote down their months as they occur, and the appearance of their light, until it is completed in 15 days. In each of its 2/7 portions, it completes all its lights at rising and at setting. On the stated months, it changes its settings, and on the stated months, it makes its progress through each gate. In 2 gates, the moon sets with the sun, viz., in these 2 gates, which are in the midst, in the 3rd and 4th gate. From the 3rd gate, it goes forth for 7 days and makes its circuit. Again, it returns to the gate whence the sun goes forth, and in that completes the whole of its light. Then it declines from the sun and enters in 8 days into the 6th gate, and returns in the 7 days to the 3rd gate from which the sun goes forth. When the sun proceeds to the 4th gate, the moon goes forth for 7 days until it passes from the 5th gate. Again it returns in 7 days to the 4th gate, and completing all its light declines and passes on by the 1st gate in 8 days, and returns in 7 days to the 4th gate, from which the sun goes forth. Thus I beheld their stations, as according to their fixed order of the months the sun rises and sets. At those times there's an excess of 30 days belonging to the sun in 5 years. All the days belonging to each year of the 5 years, when completed, amount to 364 days, and to the sun and stars belonging 6 days, 6 days in each of the 5 years, thus 30 days belonging to them. Thus, so that the moon has 30 days less than the sun and stars. The moon brings on, lost my place there, brings on all the years exactly, that their stations may come neither too forwards nor too backwards a single day, but the years may be changed with correct precision in 364 days. In 3 years the days are 1,092. In 5 years they are 1,820, and in 8 years 2,912 days. To the moon alone belongs in 3 years 1,062 days. In 5 years it has 50 days less than the sun, for an addition being made to the 1,062 days. In 5 years there are 1,770 days, and the days of the moon in the 8 years and 2,832 days. Okay. For its days in 8 years are less than those of the sun by 80 days, which 80 days are its diminution in 8 years. The year then becomes truly complete according to the station of the moon and the station of the sun, which rise in different gates, which rise and set in them for 30 days. Whew. Calendar's pretty wordy. These are the leaders and chiefs of thousands, those who preside over all creation and over all the stars, with the 4 days which were added and never separated from the place allotted them, according to the complete calculation of the year. And these serve 4 days which are not calculated in the calculation of the year. Respecting them, men greatly err. For these luminaries truly serve in the dwelling place of the world, 1 day in the first gate, one in the third gate, one in the fourth gate, and one in the sixth gate. And the harmony of the world becomes complete every 364 state of it, for the signs, the seasons, and the years. And the days Uriel showed me, the angels whom the Lord of glory appointed over all the luminaries of heaven and heavens and in the world, that they might rule in the face of the sky and in the appearing over the earth become conductors of the days and nights, the sun, the moon, the stars, and all the ministers of heaven, which makes their circuit with all the chariots of heaven. Thus Uriel showed me 12 gates, open for the circuit of the chariots of the sun in heaven, from which the rays of the sun shoot forth. From these proceed heat over the earth. When they are open in their stated season, they are for the winds and the spirit of the dew. When their seasons, they are opened in heaven at its extremities. 12 gates I beheld in heaven, and at its extremities of the earth, through which the sun, the moon, the stars, and all the works of heaven proceed at their rising and setting. Many windows are also open on the right and on the left. One window at a certain season grows extremely hot. So also are there gates from which the stars go forth, as they are commanded, and in which they set according to their number. I saw likewise the chariots of heaven running in the world above to those gates in which the stars turn, which never set. One of these is greater than all, which goes around the whole world. Something I want to point out real quick here is the fact that it's interesting that these different stars are related to holding both physical and spiritual time, so to speak. Um, these times were set up. Um, the if you had a calendar and you were able to watch your year, your seasons, your days, you'd be able to make calculations that would be astronomically correct, which would seem miraculous. Um, Plus, you know from this description that as these luminaries arise in these different places, they do somehow affect the spirits of water, the spirits of wind, and things like that. My fly is back. I'll be. Every week there's been a fruit fly show up for the last 3 weeks. Never have one all week long, and daggum if one don't show up. It's one of those idiosyncrasies that's happening. Uh, but anyways, as I was saying before the fly distracted me, is you could begin to predict things with your patterning of your harvesting and stuff like that, and it would be very good. Now, at what point do you begin to quit looking this as a calendar and begin to think you have to do something in a way of worship to make it happen? What might be thrown in there, what lies might be thrown in there to make you think that you can affect the spirits, when it says right here they are in place, set up in an order by something that's not to be moved or changed. I think it's time for a really quick couple tokes. Peek over here, see who's been chatting. Looks like we got the same group. Thank y'all for staying and for hanging out. Yeah, the it's
It shouldn't hit you bad now.
huh?
It shouldn't be.
Yeah, it's dropping off. I can tell it is.
The other reason why I like it is because it's really good to listen to music during. Like you can pick out beats and stuff.
It's cool. Um,
But it's more like an Adderall thing. It doesn't have the best pleasant high. It's it gives good performance, but uh, not a lot of
right.
relaxation.
Yeah, and having been in so much pain over the last year, my focus of which part
Right?
has changed. Where sometimes,
Definitely, healing is definitely the one.
yeah. Take another drag here real quick. There's people who have gone so far as to make up what they call Enochian magic from these texts and from some other Enoch's texts which come out. And it's actually people misusing these to try to control spirits, because that's what Enochian magic is about. It's about me approaching a spirit and getting something over on them. Um, it's once again a pollution of what was written as a good thing. Now, are there truths in Enochian magic? Sure, there is. There's lots of truths. There's lots of angels which do things for their own authority and position and stuff like that who are fallen. And we live in a fallen universe, and because of that, we have both righteous and unrighteous rulers in places of authority. So, yes, there is something to that, but as children of light, it's not something we have to particularly focus on, worry on, or participate in, because our main focus is to help build our fellow mankind, to help build and love a society. I forgot how wordy these gate descriptions got. We sat down and tried to draw
Right?
this out one time. Oh my word, you're talking about 3 or 4 weeks of pure confusion over one set of verses.
I remember that.
And really, you know what? Until I saw that thing by that gentleman that shows that if you do this looking down as opposed to standing in the middle trying to look out,
On the
but watched
Stonehenge?
it as a
Yeah.
like a globe going over, that it makes way more sense.
Yeah, I remember seeing like a video on YouTube where it showed the degrees of like a 360 and it just showed the different positions of it going, setting, entering, and exiting on this one.
You know,
In fact, I think National Geographic or some big one just like stumbled across something put in one of their little TV shows too.
yeah, that's one of the things that been prophesied for years, for hundreds of years, is more and more of these calendars showing up on the earth, and they're called calendars.
Mm-hmm.
Stone circles. I mean, they even released that there's a huge one that they're mapping under the ice.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know it was under ice. I thought it was underground.
There's one in Antarctica.
I thought one in Russia.
Oh, there might be. Oh, yeah, I saw that too. There is one that was recently discovered in Russia. Yeah. Thanks everybody who stayed with us so far. One good thing about Enoch is through most of it, you have a fun storyline going on. But as with any ancient text, it does stop to explain things. And once again, I'm going to say, throw something out there that's a little controversial. These things are given to us as a physical and a spiritual sign. They are given us for spiritual and physical pictures of what's going to happen here on this earth as the story plays out. Um, Something I've been doing quite a bit of look into recently is the procession, and how, it being 25,000 years to go completely around all 12 for the earth to wobble one complete time. And yet we consider sit and think, our yearly calendar's a big, hard, long thing. Morning, small tubes. Yo, yo. My son's here with me today. Small tubes also suffers from Crohn's disease.
Ah,
Everybody knows that, brother. I wouldn't have brought it up publicly, but
you might
hope
want to
you're
stay
doing well
away
today,
from.
brother.
Might want to stay away from stuff.
I'm 4 days without wheatgrass. The local store's been out, and I haven't gone out and got powdered wheatgrass. And I could tell today that I was already starting to have rumblings in my tummy.
Have you also paired it with that special stuff, that blend we found? I think it was just a regular, just GNC.
Yeah, I got to go by GNC and get some more. I used the last of it up. I just haven't been back there.
Combo both that and wheatgrass because it's a lot tastier going.
Anybody who does have stomach problems, I'll throw this out as a tip. Um, Baby wheatgrass, within the first 10 days, produces a whole bunch of enzymes and antioxidants, which, if you have stomach ulcers or any type of lesions in your gut, they act as a anti-inflammatory. They then, with the reduction of the inflammation, begin to allow the body to heal where it was pushed together and the rotten spots couldn't heal. It opens up and allows those ulcers to begin to heal up. And I started using the wheatgrass before I found out what my problem was. So I was already beginning the healing process, but it was very slow. And basically, it was extending me from getting sicker faster. But when I did find out that I was allergic to the red meat and cut that out, I've had a reversal now where I can actually tell the days that I don't use the wheatgrass after 2-3 days now. It was immediately, but now it's 2 or 3 days, which means I know healing is occurring. But there's a lot of things that are put in this earth to heal us, and I think particularly during this time, because of all the poisons, because of the direct spiritual attack on the children of light, to hold us down, to keep us slaves, to keep us oppressed, and our voices squelched. Um, these things are given to us. Um, we are told that every herb, every root, every plant was put upon this earth not just for food but for healing. And we've allowed them to poison our food, so our food no longer heals us. So I believe part of this discovery that we're having in this time period is that as we return to these natural things, which were part of our diets all these years, these healing things cleanse these poisons that they've been pumping into us in our environment all this time. And we begin to see healing. And I'm going to throw something out there. I believe that the spiritual healing we're seeing in people is a correlation. As people are changing their lives to quit being so negative, voicing so many negative opinions, cursing so much, and I'm not talking about just bad words, I'm talking about actual saying negative things, hoping people do bad, that kind of stuff. Um, as we change those things from our behavior, that positive energy flows back and allows that healing to occur. It's in conjunction between the spirit and the flesh. Yes, we can kind of treat one, but when we treat both, we find healing. Looks like we got one more chapter of these gates, and then I think we start back into a history thing. See how far we're going to go today. This is a pretty lengthy section of the text. And at the extremity of the earth I beheld 12 gates open for all the winds, from which they proceeded to blow over the earth. 3 of them are open in front of heaven, 3 in the west, 3 on the right side of heaven, and 3 on the left. The first three are those which are towards the east, three are towards the north, three behind those which are upon the left towards the south, and three on the west. From four of them proceed winds of blessing and of health, and from eight proceed winds of punishment, when they are sent to destroy the earth and the heaven above it, all its inhabitants, and all which are in the waters or on dry land. The first of these winds, which proceed from the gate, termed the eastern, through the first gate of the east, which is inclined southwards. From this goes forth destruction, drought, heat, and perdition. From the second gate, the middle one, proceeds equity. There issue from it rain, fruitfulness, health, and dew. And from the third gate northwards proceed cold and drought. After these proceed the south winds, through three principal gates. Through their first gates, which inclines eastwards, proceeds a hot wind. But from the middle gate proceeds a grateful odor, dew, rain, health, and life. From the third gate, which is westward, proceed dew, rain, blight, and destruction. After these are the winds of the north, which is called the sea. They proceed from the three gates. The first gate is that which is on the east, inclining southwards. From this proceed dew, rain, blight, and destruction. From the middle direct gate proceed rain, dew, life, and health. And from the third gate, which is westwards, inclining toward the south, proceed mist, frost, rain, dew, and blight. After these, in the fourth quarter, are the winds to the west. From the first gate, inclining northwards, proceed dew, rain, frost, cold, snow, and chill. From the middle gate proceed rain, health, and blessing. And from the last gate, which is southward, proceed drought, destruction, scorching, and perdition. The account of the 12 gates of the four quarters of heaven is ended. All their laws, all their infliction of punishment, and their health produced by them have I explained to you, my son Methuselah. So somewhere there's a text where he has written down how these winds affect us spiritually and how they are affected spiritually, which is very interesting. I'd love to see that text. The first wind is called the eastern because it is the first. The second is called the south because the Most High there descends, and frequently there descends he who is blessed forever. The western wind has the name of diminution because there all the luminaries of heaven are diminished and descend. The fourth wind, which is named the north, is divided into three parts. One which is for the habitation of man, another for the seas of water, with valleys, woods, rivers, shady places, and snow, and the third part contains paradise. Whoa, cool. There's an actual wind that blows into paradise. 7 high mountains I beheld, higher than all the mountains of the earth, from which frost proceeds, while days, seasons, and years depart and pass away. 7 rivers I beheld upon earth, greater than all rivers, one of which takes its course from the west into the great sea, its waters flow. 2 come from the north to the sea, their water flowing into the Erythraean Sea, and on the east. And with respect to the remaining 4, they take their course in the cavity of the north. 2 to their sea, the Erythraean Sea, and 2 are poured into a great sea, where also it is said there is a desert. 7 great islands I saw in the sea and on the earth, 7 in the great sea. The names of the sun are these: one Ariares, the other Tomas. The moon has 4 names: the first Asonia, the second Ebla, the third Benes, the fourth Are. These are 2 great luminaries, whose orbs are the orbs of heaven, and the dimension of both are equal. In the orb of the sun there is a 7th portion of light, which is added to it from the moon. By the measure it is put in, until the 7th portion of the light of the sun is departed. They enter into the western gate, circuit by the north, and through the eastern gate go forth over the face of heaven. I was wrong. I guess we had another one about gates. When the moon rises, it appears in heaven, and the half of the seventh portion of light is all which is in it. In 14 days the whole of its light is completed. By 3 quintuples light is put into it, until in 15 days its light is completed. According to the signs of the year, it has 3 quintuples. The moon has the half of a seven portion. During its diminution, on the first day its light decreases a 14th part. On the second day it decreases a 13th part. On the third day a 12th part. On the fourth day an 11th part. On the fifth day a 10th part. On the sixth day a ninth part. On the ninth day it decreases a sixth part, and on the 10th day it decreases a fifth part. On the 11th day it decreases a fourth part, and on the 12th day it decreases a third part. On the 13th day it decreases a second part. On the fourth day it decreases a half of its seventh part. And on the 15th day the whole remainder of its light is consumed. On stated months the moon has 29 days. It also has a period of 28 days. Uriel likewise showed me another regulation. When light is poured into the moon, how it is poured into it from the sun. All the time that the moon is in progress with its light, it is poured into it, in the presence of the sun, until its light and its 14th day completed in heaven. And when it is wholly extinguished, its light is consumed in heaven. And on the first day it is called the new moon, and on that day light is received into it. Dude, all them years they argued about when the new moon was, it's right here in Enoch.
Right?
It's the first day the light shows. Duh. Of course, we went by that just because we felt that was right, but still. It becomes precisely completed on the day that the sun descends into the west, while the moon ascends at night from the east. The moon then shines all the night until the sun rises before it, when the moon disappears in turn before the sun. When the light comes to the moon, there again it decreases, until all its light is extinguished, and the days of the moon pass away. Then its orb remains solitary without light. During 3 months, it affects the 30 days each month its period, and during 3 months it affects it in 29 days each. These are the times in which it decreases in its first period and in the first gate, namely in 177 days. And at the time of its going forth, during 3 months, it appears 30 days each. And during 3 more months, it appears 29 days each. And in the night, it appears for each 20 days as the face of a man, and in the day as heaven, for it is nothing except its light. No, that did not make any sense to me. In the night, it appears for each 20 days as the face of a man, and in the day as heaven, for it is nothing else except its light. Oh, I guess in the day it only shines in the light.
I'm trying to switch to the other room for a bit.
All right. And now my son Methuselah. Yeah. Yeah, get a good little nap before you gotta take off again. He hasn't been asleep for 2 days, the poor boy. And now my son Methuselah, I have shown you everything, and the account of every ordinance of the stars of heaven is finished. He showed me every ordinance respecting these, which takes place at all times and in all seasons, under every influence, in all years, at the arrival and under the rule of each, during every month and every week. He showed me also the decrease of the moon, which is effected in the sixth gate, for in the sixth gate is the light consumed. From this is the beginning of the month, and its decrease is effected in the sixth gate of it in its period, until 177 days are completed, according to the mode of calculation by weeks, 25 weeks and 2 days. Its period is less than that of the sun, according to the ordinance of the stars, by 5 days, in 1/2 year precisely, when that their visible situation is completed. Such is the appearance and likeness of every luminary, which Uriel, the great angel who conducts them, showed to me. In those days Uriel answered and said to me, Behold, I have showed you all things, O Enoch, and all things have I revealed to you. You see the sun, the moon, and those which conduct the stars of heaven, which cause all their operations, seasons, and arrivals to return. In the days of sinners the years shall be shortened. Their seed shall be backward in the prolific soil, and everything done on earth shall be subverted and disappear in its season. The rain shall be restrained, and heaven shall stand still. In those days the fruit of the earth shall be late, and not flourish in their season. And in their season the fruits of the trees shall be withholden. The moon shall change its laws, and not be seen at its proper period. But in those days shall heaven be seen, and the barrenness shall take place in the borders of the great chariots in the west. Heaven shall shine more than when illuminated by the orders of light, while many chiefs among the stars of authority shall err, perverting their ways and works. All right, so here we have the fact that because of the wickedness of man, it actually changes the length of the years, but it also affects the spiritual luminaries to the point where it says that during this period of time, the moon is not going to be seen in its proper period. Look up on YouTube, I guess, throw in the phrase, what's wrong with the moon, or what's happening with the moon. Folks, there's some crazy things going on with what's going on with the moon. Upside down, sideways, the picture of the head looking from the wrong direction. We might be starting to see some things, folks. Those shall not appear in their season who commanded them, and all the classes of the stars shall be shut up against sinners. The thought of those who dwell on earth shall transgress within them, and they shall be perverted in all their ways. They shall transgress and think themselves gods, while evil shall be multiplied among them, and punishment shall come upon them, so that all of them shall be destroyed. And once again, folks, here it's written out quite plainly. It's because we were sold that we are gods. We are not gods. We are the creative force of God. We are God within us. We are not gods ourselves. There is a spiritual authority that's in place. We've been reading about that. Uh, However, we use our science to try to subvert the weather, change all kinds of stuff nowadays. We're saying we're gods. We are saying we know better how to make this world spin than the one who put it into orbit and spun it does. Uh, and evidently, we're going to succeed in changing some of these things because it's going to throw even the moon out of orbit and out of place or out of alignment or something. And it's going to make the seasons goof up. I don't know how many of y'all knew last year, but growers all across the world, not just this nation, but in different places in the world, this is going to sound silly to some, but for those who grow outdoor, the cannabis crop, there's a season, just like everything else. And you put your plant out there, it grows, everybody's stuff starts budding at the same time. Those buds mature, they get full, they put out their seed all at the same time. Last year, everybody's plants started budding early. Then they reverted back into the growth phase and ended up finishing very late. We had plants that were goofed up by something that happened. This happened to many different strains, many different people, many different places, many different styles of growing. We're seeing this stuff happen. We're seeing these things taking place again. It's saying, wake up, look, see what you're doing. Quit trying to play God. He said, O Enoch, look down the book which heaven has gradually dropped down, and reading that which is written in it, understand every part of it. Then I looked on all which was written, and understood all, reading the book and everything written in it, all the works of man, and of all the children of flesh upon the earth, during the generations of the world. Immediately after I blessed the Lord, the King of glory, who has thus forever formed the whole workmanship of the world. And I glorified the Lord on account of his long suffering and blessings toward the children of the world. At that time I said, Blessed is the man who shall die righteous and good, against whom no catalogue of crime has been written, and with whom iniquity is not found. Then those three holy ones caused me to approach and place me on the earth before the door of my house. And they said unto me, Explain everything to Methuselah your son, and inform all your children that no flesh shall be justified before the Lord, for he is their creator. During 1 year we shall leave you with your children, until you shall again recover your strength, that you may instruct your family, writing these things, and explain them to all your children. But in another year they shall take you from the midst of them, and your heart shall be strengthened. For the elect shall point out righteousness to the elect. The righteous with the righteous shall rejoice, congratulating each other. But the sinners with sinners shall die, and the perverted with perverted shall be drowned. Those likewise who act righteously shall die on account of the works of men, and shall be gathered together on account of the works of the wicked. In those days they finished conversing with me, and I returned to my fellow men, blessing the Lord of the worlds. I want to point out right here, real quick, that a lot of people who have very strong spiritual encounters often end up sick for a period of time. This is recorded scripturally. Whenever these beings come into our presence, that certain physical things happen to us. The falling down, the getting weak of the heart, and all those things are physical things that we cannot control. Our body just cannot control it. We actually have to be strengthened by them. And many times there's this illness, and for him it said you're going to take a year to recover. So keep that in mind when you're dealing with taking spiritual journeys and stuff. Sometimes there is a physical draining that occurs to the body. Now, my son Methuselah, all these things I speak unto you and write for you. To you I have revealed all, and have given you books of everything. Preserve, my son Methuselah, books written by your father, that you may reveal them to future generations. Wisdom have I given you to your children and to your posterity, that they may reveal to their children for generations forever this wisdom in their thoughts, and that those who comprehend it may not slumber, but hear with their ears, that they may learn this wisdom, and be deemed worthy of eating this wholesome food. Blessed are all the righteous, blessed are all who walk in righteousness, in whom no crime is found, as in sinners when all their days are numbered. With the respect to the progress of the sun in heaven, it enters and goes out of each gate for 30 days, and the leaders of 1,000 classes of stars, with 4 which are added, and appertain to the 4 quarters of the years, which conducted them, and accompanied them at 4 periods. Respecting these, men greatly err, and do not calculate them in the calculation of every age, for they greatly err respecting them. Nor do men know accurately that they are in the calculation of the year, but indeed these are marked down forever, 1 in the first gate, 1 in the third, 1 in the fourth, and 1 in the sixth, so that the year is completed in 364 days. Truly has been stated, and accurately has been calculated that which is marked down. For the luminaries, the months, the fixed periods, the years, the days, Uriel has explained to me and communicated to me, whom the Lord of all creation on my account commanded, according to the might of heaven and the power which it possesses both by night and by day, to explain the laws of light to man, of the sun, moon, and stars, and of the powers of heaven, which are turned with their respective orbs. This is the ordinance of the stars, which is set in their place, in their seasons, in their periods, in their days, and their months. These are the names of those who conduct them, who watch and enter in their seasons according to their ordinance, in their periods, in their months, and in the times of their influence, and in their stations. 4 conductors of them first enter, who separate the 4 quarters of the years. After these, 12 conductors of their classes, who separate the months and the year into 364 days, and the leaders of 1,000 who distinguish between days, as well as between the 4 additional ones, which as conductors divide the 4 quarters of the years. These leaders of 1,000 are in the midst of the conductors, and the conductors are added each behind his station, and their conductors make separation. These are the names of the conductors, who separate the 4 quarters of the years and are appointed over them: Melkel, Helmelech, Milial, and Narel. Now it's interesting here. I want to point out that the stars are already named. The ones who are in control of them are already listed. And yet we had in the tablets of Enki, as each one of them decided to take a, as each one of the Anunnaki decided to take a position of authority upon the earth, they assigned to themselves one of the star sets and the authority of the stars. So there's another assertion that happens. And these are names of those who conduct them are Adrenaral, Jayasusel, Jailmel. These are the three who follow after the conductors of the classes of stars, each following after the three conductors of the classes, which themselves follow after these conductors of the stations, who divide the 4 quarters of the year. In the first part of the year rises the rural Melchias, whose name Tamani and Zeha, which translates to southern sun. All the days of his influence during which he rules are 91 days. And these are the signs of the days which are seen upon the earth. In the days of his influence there is perspiration, heat, and trouble. All the trees become fruitful, and the leaf of every tree comes forth. The corn is reaped, the rose and every species of flowers blossoms in the field, and the trees of winter are dried up. These are the names of the conductors who are under them: Barkel, Zelsabel, and another additional conductor of 1,000 is named Heliolef. And the days of those influence have been completed. The other conductor named after them is Helmelech, whose name they call the splendid Zahe, or sun. All the days of his light are 91 days. These are the signs of the days upon the earth, heat and drought, while the trees bring forth their fruits, warmed and concocted, and give their fruits to dry. The flocks follow in your the flocks follow in urine, I guess. All the fruits of the earth are collected with everything in the fields, and the vines are trodden. This takes place during the time of his influence. Oh, follow in Yin is mate and bear young. These are their names and orders, and the names of the conductors who are under them, those who are chiefs of 1,000, Gediel, Keel, and Heel. And the name of the additional leader of the house of 1,000 is Asphael. The days of his influence have been completed. Chapter 82, we're approaching about halfway through this text. I was hoping to get through the big astrological thing, so I'm going to go one more here. And now I have shown you my son Methuselah, every sight which I saw prior to your birth. I will relate another vision which I saw before I was married. They resemble each other. The first was when I was learning a book, and the other before I was married to your mother. I saw a potent vision, and on account of these things besought the Lord. I was laying down in the house of my grandfather Malel, when I saw a vision, heaven purifying and snatched away, and falling to the earth. I likewise saw the earth absorbed by a great abyss, and mountains suspended over mountains. Hills were sinking upon hills. Lofty trees were gliding off from their trunks, and were in the act of being projected and of sinking into the abyss. Being alarmed at these things, my voice faltered. I cried out and said, "The earth is destroyed." Then my grandfather Malel raised me up and said to me, "Why do you thus cry out, my son? And wherefore thus do you lament?" I related to him the whole vision which I had seen. He said to me, "Confirmed is that which you have seen, my son, and potent the vision of your dream respecting every secret sin of the earth. Its substance shall shrink into the abyss, and great destruction take place. Now, my son, rise up and beseech the Lord of glory, for you are faithful, that a remnant may be left upon the earth, and that he would not wholly destroy it. My son, all this calamity upon the earth comes down from heaven. Upon earth shall there be a great destruction." Then I arose, prayed, and entreated, and wrote down my prayer for the generations of the world, explaining everything to my son Methuselah. When I went down below, and looking up to heaven, beheld the sun proceeding from the east, the moon descending to the west, a few scattered stars, and everything which God had known from the beginning. I blessed the Lord of judgment and magnified him, because he had sent forth the sun from its chamber of the east, that ascending and rising in the face of heaven, it might spring up and pursue the path that has been pointed out to it. Quick perusal here through 83 and 84. Yeah, I think we'll pick up at 83 next week. I need to go through and label the last couple of my broadcasts. I think the main takeaway today that I'm seeing is the realization that everything has an order. Wrong one. That's why. Everything has an authority over it. And as we walk in righteous living, it keeps the whole thing working like a well-oiled and good machine. But when we get outside of that, it's like little wrenches are thrown into that machine and little things start messing up here and there. And curses start coming about. Cheers. Thank you, Jetta. Thank you for hanging and listening. We should be able to finish up this text next week. Plow through Enoch. Still trying to figure out some way of doing a few more things. Yeah, I think I got into preaching enough this week. I don't really need to recap a lot. It's pretty clear. Oh, we want to make sure we don't throw that baby out with the bathwater. Just because we have a system ruled by tyrants doesn't mean the system is wrong. It's the tyrants that are wrong. Order is good for us. Structure is good for us. Rules are good for us. They're teachers. You can get into some theological arguments there, but if you don't want to put the weight of judgment into it, but look at it the way it's described by Paul in the New Testament, it's there like the teachers in school. They tell us what to do. They show us what we're doing wrong. But they teach us. They're not supposed to dictate us. They're to teach us. But they don't do that anymore in our schools. No, they strictly dictate behavior to people. And in dictating, they don't teach them how to think, how to reason. Because if I teach you how to reason, that means there's a good choice and a bad choice. And we can't say that there's bad choices. Because if there's bad choices, the righteous men have a real reason to rise up and die for good things. One thing I learned in clock making, it takes different sizes of gears to create different time patterns. If a pendulum's singing real fast, you want something to slow that down in time, because you want time to always be the same. You can change the gears, you can change the pendulum, you can throw things in there that makes it run slow or fast, but you want that time to remain the same. So what we have is we have all these little pieces, and as the dirt and crud and grime from everyday life gets in there and gets into the gears, them gears aren't able to swing past each other as easy. No, they end up with a little bit of friction there. They end up pushing against each other, and that grime keeps getting jammed in there and jammed in there and jammed in there until eventually that gear can't pass the grime anymore. You're just mired down in the grime. So you have to stop and give it a good cleaning. And when you clean it, then you can see those gears work properly. And as you watch them work properly, you realize that all that grime caused the holes that those gears go through to warble out a little. And now they jiggle and shake, which messes that time up. So all that goo, now that it's gone, I still have a result. I still have something that's affecting my time. So I have to go in and I have to strengthen those places that have been warbled out. I have to put bushings and bearings in there. And in doing that, I tighten that up. I bring that law and order back into place so that gear can run in its proper path. And as it binds and combines with that gear, it gets into where it flows at the proper time. It works and it occurs. And you don't get off skelter. You know, you're not losing 3 seconds a day so that in a week or so you're, 10 minutes late to a meeting. But it's all ordered. It all works together. It works in harmony. It works best when it's clean and fluid without all the grime in it. It can be rebuilt. That's another thing. You can make it new. I took it, what was it, 1769? I'd have to look it up for sure. 1763, I believe, was the oldest one I know I worked on. It was signed by the clockmaker and everything. So we're looking over, what is that? Shoot, 2060 would be 300 years. So we're looking at like 250 years later. I can take and clean the machine up and tighten a few pieces up and make it run just like it did 250 years ago. Because when all those pieces are in the right place, they mesh, they work. Jada, my brain works in pictures. I when I read things, I don't read words, I read pictures. When I see an aspect or an idea, I see a picture. When I get a feeling or an empathy or an emotion, I get a picture. And my hardest thing being dyslexic is switching between the two brains to give words to those pictures. But in being dyslexic, that weakness has become the strength that allows me, that struggle between those two hemispheres allows me to get the clarity, allows me to see that picture clearer. Yeah, one of my buddies who was in here earlier has taught me a little bit about being descriptive. Uh, in our community, oftentimes people can get very scientific about plants, and science can cloud your mind with the words and stuff. And this young man, this gentleman, Maine Green, has a knack for being able to look at a chemical process and tell it to you in a funny picture way, like, the plant's all warm and fuzzy, and it grabs those little things and wraps it around itself like a blanket, and carries it up, and he just gets descriptive on how each thing different works. And I'm learning to, you know, put the description to the picture, I guess. Because I've always tried to interpret the picture as opposed to describe. And that's where a lot of prophets go wrong. There's people who are born prophetic. They're born seeing pictures of things that are coming. and they begin to interpret those pictures as opposed to just describe the picture, because that picture occurs no matter how we interpret how it happens. I found that in my life. I was so bound and determined. I had a picture in my mind of something that was given to me as a child, of an instance that was going to happen in my life, and I knew for many, many years how that was going to happen and avoided it. Well, in my avoiding it, I made that very thing happen. And when the picture came about, I'm sitting there going, whoa, you know, I'm holding my newborn son. I'm looking down in his face. I'm in the same environment, the same smells, this whole thing that was in my head, this whole picture's right there. But how I got there was a whole different interpretation of the picture. And that's when I began to realize that all these people who begin to date and time and set signs, no, they're just pictures, folks. They're just glimpses. We don't know anything other than what we're seeing. Actually, Joe, it's kind of cool. At 13 years old, my dad, a hellfire and brimstone preacher, Southern Baptist, on occasion had other hellfire brimstone preachers come in for what they call revivals, a time when you're supposed to evaluate your life. And it's a good thing to stop and evaluate where you're at, what things you need to change. Um, but the fear factor was amped up during these periods of time. And in my fear, I asked the Creator to show me that I was going to live longer, or live, or be alive before or live through, or that my life would be complete before the destruction came, I guess is the best way of saying it. And I got this picture of holding this child in my hands. And I wrote it down in the column of this Bible. And my family has a habit of never throwing a Bible away. And here I am, 26 years old. I had spent basically 6 years with somebody I knew who couldn't have children, because I was bound and determined to party before the end came. I knew that this picture had to happen because of other pictures that had been shown. In my partying, I was introduced to the crowd that died of AIDS. Through that crowd, I was introduced to the woman who became my wife, still all through the party scene. We became pregnant before we got married, all still in the party scene. We were in the hospital, going through the birth process. It started at 7 in the morning. This is 14 hours later, something like that. The child's born, it's handed to me. Now, I had no thought in my head of that vision. But when I looked down and saw the kid right there, it was like a deja vu that you have no question what the deja vu was from. Because, I basically stepped outside of my physical self for a moment and looked around and realized that this is a spiritual moment for me. It was also the turning point in my life when I realized that, you know what, I'm holding this life that I don't want to see destroyed through this party scene, and I've got to get out of it. And that this life, wow, this is intense, because today my son just come in, 24 years ago, this story. This life completely altered and changed everything because he was conceived in the party. And I didn't want him to live the destructive things that had happened to me. And wow. All the curses that I went through, the fears that I went through. And so that was one of those changing pictures. It's about 6-8 months later. We're in church now. We've done our swing. We've decided we're giving up the party lifestyle. We're giving up one drug after another, getting rid of occultic stuff and bondages and curses and stuff. And my mother she finds this Bible, not even knowing what was in it and sends me this Bible in a package out of the blue. And I have only been talking to my parents for a short period of time at this point. I had spent 2 years not speaking to them at all. And in this Bible, I open it up, and there's the record of this very vision. And all this is happening in this small time frame. And I call them creator checkpoints. It's when he reminds you he's real, that he's the one holding the picture. Since that period of time, I've had a whole series of these pictures occur. And I have more of them to expect. And even this period of time that I'm going through now with the separation of my wife and my daughter and all those things, these are pictures I talked about with my children 5 years ago because I saw. But we can't say why or how, because I spent the last year purposely trying to avert what I saw coming. And yet somehow that very thing locked it all in. So, interesting. But there you go, another piece of Brian cannot tell. That I have now told. I do appreciate everybody. Thank you, Jed Joe, for chatting with me here at the end. So wrapped up. Death Valley, thanks, buddy, for dropping in. Good to see you. Yep. Another brother who's been doing some real good work. Take care, everybody. You have a good week. Blessings. May everything be peaceful. May you find healing this week, comfort in your bodies. May your finances break free so that you can have some little extra to do something in this world because they try to keep us so strangled. May their hands be broken over us so that we can find our freedom. Peace out, everybody.